The Olympics, the world's greatest stage, has witnessed tragedies so shocking that they'll haunt your memory forever. From an athlete who collapsed mid-race because he couldn't sweat to the night when 11 Olympians were murdered. Here are 5 times the Olympics turned deadly. Francisco Lazaro. It was a warm summer in Stockholm, Sweden, on July 14, 1912. Athletes from around the world had gathered for the Olympics, and among them was a young Portuguese marathon runner, Francisco Lazaro, a carpenter by trade and one of Portugal's brightest hopes in athletics. Portugal, still developing its sporting identity, looked to him as a hero who could bring recognition to his homeland. He was full of pride and determination, raising his country's flag in its first ever Olympic appearance. However, he would not make it back. Behind his quiet confidence lay a dangerous misunderstanding of how the human body works. One that would turn his Olympic dream into one of the first tragedies in modern Olympic history. On the morning of the marathon, the weather was hot. The sun beat down on the runners as they lined up at the starting line. Francisco, worried about getting sunburned during the long race, made a fateful decision. He coated his body with a later wax before leaving his quarters. To him, it was a clever trick to shield his skin, but what he didn't realize was that this wax would seal his pores completely, preventing his body from sweating. As the race began, Francisco ran with confidence. For the first 20 kilometers, he was among the front runners. Spectators cheered as he passed, and everything seemed to be going well. But soon, the sun grew harsher, and his body began to betray him. Without the ability to sweat, his internal temperature rose dangerously. Just after the halfway point, he fell for the first time and couldn't walk straight. By the 30-kilometer mark, he began to stagger. His pace slowed down. He appeared disoriented and pale. Moments later, he collapsed on the side of the road, but this time he couldn't get up. Medical personnel on standby rushed to his aid and carried him to a nearby hospital. There, with a temperature of 41 degrees Celsius, doctors fought desperately to save him. Despite their efforts, Francisco's condition worsened overnight. His body temperature had reached fatal levels, and he suffered severe dehydration and heat stroke. The next morning, July 15th, 1912, Francisco Lazaro was pronounced dead. He was the first athlete to die during an Olympic event. His death shocked the sporting world and cast a somber shadow over the rest of the Games. A funeral service was held at the Olympic Stadium in his honor. Funds were raised for his wife, and as a lasting tribute, a monument was erected at the turning point of the marathon course. His final words before the race, "Either I win or I die," became tragically prophetic. Knut Jensen. In 1960, the world gathered with joy at Rome, Italy, for the Summer Olympic Games. But when they departed, it would be with sorrow and unanswered questions. The air was thick with excitement, pride, and fierce spirit of competition. Among the athletes who arrived to represent their countries was Knut Jensen, a 23-year-old cyclist from Denmark, a young, ambitious, and determined individual eager to make his nation proud. For him, it wasn't just about winning, it was about proving that all the sweat, pain, and sacrifice had been worth it. But on that fateful August morning, as the sun blazed over Rome, the Olympic dream that fueled his every pedal stroke would end his life. The event was the 100-kilometer team time trial road race, one of the toughest races in cycling. Jensen and his Danish teammates pedaled furiously down Via Cristoforo Colombo, each heartbeat echoing the rhythm of their wheels. However, the sun was as committed as the athletes. The temperature soared above 40 degrees Celsius. Determined, the Danish team stayed strong, but the merciless sun burned down harder with each passing kilometer. During the event, one of the four-man teams was forced to abandon the race after the first lap due to heat stroke, leaving the remaining 3 men to finish together, or Denmark would be disqualified. As the road stretched endlessly ahead, Jensen's vision began to blur. Sweat poured from his body, his leg trembled, and the air felt thinner with every breath. "I feel dizzy," he murmured. Alarmed, his teammate, Bonso, tried to hold his jersey from one side, while another supported him from the other, splashing him with water in an attempt to cool his overheating body. For a moment, Jensen seemed to recover, but the illusion didn't last. When Bonso let go, Jensen's body went limp. He collapsed violently with his helmetless head striking the pavement. He was rushed to a nearby military tent, but it had poor cooling conditions. As time passed, his life slipped away. Despite their efforts, Knut Jensen never regained consciousness. A few hours later, he was pronounced dead. His Olympic journey ended before he could ever cross the finish line. After his death, an autopsy revealed he died from a brain injury secondary to a skull fracture from hitting his head. However, one of the Danish trainers initially confessed that he gave the cyclists a drug called Roniacal, a stimulant similar to amphetamines that helps widen blood vessels, but he later retracted his statement. Moreover, early hospital reports claimed that Knut Jensen's toxicology test showed traces of several drugs, including amphetamines, but officials later denied this. Munich Massacre. In the early hours of September 5th, 1972, what was meant to be a celebration of unity and sportsmanship turned into a nightmare. The 1972 Summer Olympics in Munich would forever be remembered, not for the games, but for the bloodshed that followed. 8 men from the Palestinian militant group Black September, led by Lutif Afif, slipped into the Olympic Village before dawn. Dressed like athletes, they scaled the fence and made their way to the building that housed the Israeli delegation. Their mission was brutal and clear. They burst into apartment 31 at Connolly Strasse, catching the Israeli athletes and coaches off guard. Wrestling coach Moshe Weinberg and weightlifter Yosef Romano were killed almost immediately as they tried to fight back. Then, 11 others were taken hostage. The group wanted one thing: the release of over 200 Palestinian prisoners held in Israel, along with several German terrorists from the Red Army faction. Negotiations dragged on for hours. It was either that or more bloodshed. By nightfall, after long hours of failed negotiations, officials proposed what seemed like a breakthrough. They told the terrorists that their demands would be met. Planes would be waiting to fly them and the hostages to Cairo. Believing the offer, the militants agreed to move. Blindfolded and bound, the 9 Israeli hostages were loaded into 2 helicopters and flown to Fürstenfeldbruck Air Base, about 25 kilometers from Munich. But what the kidnappers didn't know was that it was all part of a German rescue plan. At the airbase, disguised police snipers were already positioned, waiting for the perfect shot. Yet, the plan was doomed from the start. The supposed getaway plane, which was meant to have undercover German officers posing as crew, was completely empty. Realizing they'd been deceived, the terrorists erupted in anger. They began shooting, and in the chaos, one of them threw a grenade into a helicopter. Within minutes, all the hostages were dead. The world watched in horror. For the first time, a major terrorist massacre during the Olympics was captured on live television. By the end, one German officer lost his life and 5 of the terrorists were killed. The authorities arrested the 3 terrorists who survived. However, just a month later, a flight was hijacked by another Palestinian group demanding the release of those 3 men. Consequently, the German government gave in and released the terrorists in exchange for the hostages on the plane. Nodar Kumaritashvili. Every athlete spends countless hours training for their big moment, pushing limits, perfecting each move, and preparing to shine when it matters most. But for this athlete, that moment ended before it even began, just hours before the grand opening of the 2010 Winter Olympics in Vancouver. 21-year-old Nodar Kumaritashvili was getting ready for his final practice run. The icy track was known for its incredible speed and danger. Even seasoned competitors had warned that it was too fast, too steep, and too risky. But like every Olympian, Nodar was determined to face it head-on and make his country, Georgia, proud. He launched down the chute, his sled cutting through the ice with precision. Each curve tested his skill and focus until he reached curve 16, one of the track's deadliest turns. In an instant, Nodar lost control. His sled swerved violently out of line, and before anyone could react, he was thrown off the course at terrifying speed, crashing into a steel pole just beyond the track. The impact was catastrophic. Medical personnel rushed to his side, but it was too late. Nodar Kumaritashvili was pronounced dead shortly after the crash. Baman Golbarnejad. Baman Golbarnezland had lost his left leg during the Iran-Iraq War, but rather than give up, he turned to sports. To him, the race isn't just about medals, it's about pushing beyond pain, proving that limits can be broken. However, that determination that defined his entire life would end it. On September 17th, 2016, during the Rio Paralympics, Baman was competing in the men's C4-5 road race. Despite the challenging terrain and his age, he powered through the course with courage and focus. But as he approached a sharp downhill section on the second lap, everything took a turn for the worse. Suddenly, he lost control of his bike and crashed heavily. His head hit the ground hard, and he immediately sustained severe neck injuries. Quickly, emergency responders rushed to his aid and began treatment on site before taking him to the hospital. But on the way, Baman suffered a cardiac arrest. Despite their desperate efforts to revive him, he remained unconscious. Sadly, he was pronounced dead shortly after arriving at the hospital. That night, the closing ceremony included a moment of silence to honor Baman Golbarnezad, a man who had dedicated his life to the thing that took it. If you made it this far, hit subscribe and explore our other videos that uncover the darkest corners of human history.